Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Arya Pamungkas Pito Alam with student ID 0103-128-2328-0 and 99. And here I am doing the task given by the lecturer on Intermediate Accounting 2, where I will be explaining about how can I solve the question on P13-3. This question talking about payroll tax entries. So the question is, Federal File Company pays its office employee payroll weekly. Below is a partial list of employees and their payroll data for August. Because August is their vacation period, vacation pay is also listed. Here is the payroll weekly and then the vacation pay for every employee. And to sum up all of that information, here is the key points. So federal income tax are charged for 10%, union dues are charged for 2%, state unemployment tax are charged for 2.5% on the first $7,000 years to date income. And then federal unemployment tax is 0.8% on the first $7,000 years to date income. And then the last key point is FICA employee and employer is 7.65% in amount exceeding $130,000 point 700. So the instruction is make the journal entries necessary for each of the four August payrolls. The entries for the payrolls and for the company's liability are made separately. Also make the entry to record the monthly payment of accrued payroll liabilities. So the first thing we have to do is we are gonna calculate the total gross monthly, where we are gonna times this gross pay weekly with 4, since in the month there are assuming in the month there are 4 weeks. So the total gross monthly for Mark Hamill is $800,800, and for Karen Robin is $900. Brand Kirk is for $660, and for Alec Guinness is $1,000, and last for Ken Sprouse is $1,980,000. And then the federal income tax, how can we get this? Is we are going to times this total gross monthly with 10%, which the federal income tax are stated before is 10%. So here we get the federal income tax for each employee, $80, $90, $66, $100, and lastly, 180, $198. And last, we're gonna search for the union dues of each employee on the August, which we are gonna times this gross monthly with 2%, since stated before the union dues is 2%. So the union dues for the Mark Hamill is $60, $16, and for the Karen Robin is $18, and for Brinkik is $13.2, and then for Alec Guinness is $20, and lastly for Ken Sprouse is $39.6. And then we will get the net pay or the wage and salaries that we're gonna pay for them, and after get minus with federal income tax and union dues. So as for the Mark Hamill, it is going to be $704, and then for Karen Robin is $792, and Brent is $580.8, and Alec Guinness is $880, and lastly for Kate Sprouse is 170 $1,742.4. So after that, since there are some employees, there are still key points that we haven't counted. So here, the rest of the key point that we should count. So the first one is we're gonna count the SUTA and the FUTA for August. So, but before that, we are going to look at for their earnings, years to date earning, and before is for July, and now we are gonna search for the earnings to August. So the earnings to August, we can get it from adding the August gross pay with the earnings to July. So as for the Mark Hamill, earnings to August is $5,000, and for Karen Robbins, the earning to August is $4,400, and for Brent Kirk is $3,360, and for Alec Guinness is $84,000, $8,400, and last for Ken Sprouse is $9,980. So here is stated where the SUTA is 2.5 on the first 700, which on the earnings to July, Ken Sprouse is already exceeding the $700. Other than Ken Sprouse, Alec Guinness is also have earnings in July exceeding $7,000. So we don't have to count the SUTA and FUTA for Alec Guinness and Ken Sprouse. So as for the SUTA for Mark Hamill, we're gonna times this with 2.5%, and we will get the SUTA for $20. As for the Karen Robbins, the SUTA is $22.5. And lastly, for Brand Cake, the SUTA is $16.5. As for the FUTA, we're gonna times the earnings to August with 0.8%, and we will get FUTA for Mark Hamill is $6.4, and for the Karen Robin is $7.2, and lastly for Brent Kirk is $5.28. And we will get the net pay for every employee. So after we are already doing the calculation and journal entry, we're gonna move on to the after we are doing the calculation, we're gonna move on to the journal entry. The first journal entry is we're gonna doing the journal entry for our payroll. So here the payroll is wage and salaries expense. We are getting this number from the total gross monthly that our employee gonna get. So the account on wage and salaries expense would be on debit $5,340. And for the credit, there are federal income tax, union dues payable, and lastly, wage and salaries payable. So as the federal income tax payable, we are getting this from our calculation before. That's already sums up all of the employee, and also same for the union dues payable. We just have to move the total amount of our federal income tax and union dues payable. And after that, we are going to get the wage and salaries payable for August, which $4,699.22. After we are doing the payroll journal entry, After we are doing the payroll journal entry, we are gonna do the employee payroll tax entry, which the account is payroll tax expense on the debit for $486.39. And we are getting this from adding the FICK tax payable and SUTA payable and also FUTA payable. Where's the FICK tax payable? We are getting this from the August gross pay, and then we times it with 7.65%. were stated before on the key points. So we are getting the number for the VK tax payable is 408.51 thousand for $408.51. And the SUTI payable, we are just moving the calculation we did before into this journal entry. And also same for the FUTA payable, we are just moving the calculation before onto this and we are putting this onto the credit. So after we know all of the payable for wage, FICA, SUTA, FUTA, federal income tax payable, and also union dues payable, we are gonna do the monthly payment entry for the payroll. So we are just gonna moving every journal that already stated on the credit, moving to the debit, which the first journal is wage and salaries payable for $4,699.2, and then the federal income tax for $534, and the union dues payable is $106.8, FICA tax payable for $408.51, SUTA tax payable for $59, and last FUTA tax payable for $18.88. And the cash that we have to pay for this monthly payment payroll is $5,826.39 thousand. Okay, that is how I do the transaction in P13.3 for the payroll tax entries. May this help our learning process to know more about how can we journal the payroll entry, and that's all I can explain. Thank you and have a good day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.